All right. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Vicki Johnson at ProFellow. Welcome. Come on in. I started the link a little bit early so that we could give people time to get into the webinar. So just make yourself comfortable. And in the meantime, if you want to say hi in the chat, I'd love to see who's here and let us know where you're from. I'll start the chat just so folks can see this is a live event. So I'm putting in hi. This is Vicki. Go ahead and put something in the chat if you want to say hello. Let me know where you're logging in from. That would be great. And in just a few minutes, we'll get started on this webinar, Secrets to Using the ProFellow Database. Come on in, come on in. Hello, everyone. If you're just getting in now, I'm Dr. Vicki Johnson. I'm the founder at ProFellow, and hopefully you've signed up for this event. This is Secrets to Using the ProFellow Database, and I'm really excited to speak with everyone today. So just come on in. If you can, if you want, say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're logging in from. That would be great. All right, some folks are saying hi in the chat. This is excellent. All right, we've got Jakra Weeks. Hello. Sheila from San Jose. Good to see you. Rosanna from Pittsburgh. Hello. We've got Paul from Exeter. Sheila from Indiana. Hello. Todd is here. Annika's here from New York City. Ola Fair is here from Nigeria. Hello. Julia's here from Atlanta. Rosalind from Virginia. Fantastic. Come on in. And you might start to see people from, I don't know, your own hometown here in the chat. So just come on in and say hello. And we'll start in just a minute here. I'm just giving people a minute or two to get into the link. But in about a minute, I'm going to start this presentation, Secrets to Using the ProFellow Database. All right. And I'm going to see if I recognize any familiar names. Oh, it's so good to see everyone. Hello, Nicole. Hello, Desmond. Hello, Jodica. Hello, Claire. Nicole from New Jersey. Hello. Hi, Dory from Decatur, Georgia. Come on in. Hello, hello. All right. Now, since we're a little bit past the hour, I'll get started, but keep coming in, say hello, make yourself comfortable. I'm really excited to give this presentation today on Secrets to Using the ProFellow Database. If you're new to ProFellow, you might not be aware, we recently launched an all-new site. Our previous site was about 10 years old, so we were definitely due for a new site, and I'm really excited to show you around, show you how to navigate the new site and make the most of it. We have so many free resources available, and I want to show you just how you can use this as a career resource, not only if you're in your early career or you're a student, but even well into your mid and late career. So it's really good to see you all today. My full name is Dr. Vicki Johnson. Feel free to call me Vicki. I'm the founder and CEO of ProFellow. And I also do a lot of other things too. I'm authoring my first book, which is coming out later this year, called Pitch Your Potential. I'm excited to share with you a formula that I have taught in hundreds of workshops to thousands of people on how to get into these really competitive programs. So all of the secrets are going to be unlocked in this book that's coming out later this year. Also, how I got into this world is that I'm a 4-time fellowship winner myself. So I started out of undergrad applying to fellowships, and I did some programs, including the New York City Urban Fellows Program. I did a German Chancellor Fellowship in Germany. I also did the Herbert Scoville Jr. Peace Fellowship in Washington, D.C. And then I did a mid-career award called the Ian Axford Fellowship in Public Policy, which is a Fulbright Award in New Zealand. I've also used these types of programs to find funding for graduate studies. So if any of you have been around for a long time, you might have heard my origin story. I did my Master of Science in Public Health at the London School, but I didn't have any funding back then. Back in my early career, I had no idea how to find graduate funding. Later in my career, while I was in New Zealand, I entered a fully funded PhD program. And that is where I got clued into full funding for graduate school, what it is, how to find it. And now that is also a big focus of the ProFellow site, is these fully funded PhD and master's programs. In all cases, I like to call myself a career adventurer. Fellowships are a great way to travel the world, expand your expertise, do research, continue your education, you name it. And I'm just an example of just one of many, many people have used fellowships to change careers, advance their careers, and do different things. So myself, I've worked in government. I then in public policy. I had my stint in academia doing my PhD. And then later I'm now a social entrepreneur. So I really feel like fellowships gave me the skills that I needed to make all these changes and transitions and pursue things that I'm interested in at different stages in my career. So I'm glad you're here today because this is going to be the first step, right? Finding these awards. This is a little screenshot of the new site, which we're going to visit in a few minutes here. But ProFellow is really a place for you to find and win fellowships and awards for study. And actually, I'm sorry that got cut off there at the end of the slide, but it's for study, for international exchange, for research, creative projects, social entrepreneurship, you name it. So if you're looking for different types of opportunities and funding awards for different goals, this is a great place to start. Now, before actually, I want to do a little poll first. Before I get into the content, I have a poll here that I'm going to put into the chat. And the poll says, oh, wait, I thought it would just run. Okay, never mind. I was going to ask people, I had a poll set up, but I guess it didn't activate. Let me try it now. It's going to be, how long have you used ProFellow? And the choices, let me just see. I want to find out if you're very new, under 6 months. I'm just typing this in as we go. Under 6 months or more than 6 months. It's only giving me 2 options to add. All right. And then I want to know who here are the ProFellow veterans and who here are pretty new. Okay. Oh, I can add answers. Hold on. Or 5+ years. Let me do that. So I'll do, let's see, 6 months to 1 year. And then I'll do 1 to 5 years, if you can remember. All right. I'm going to preview and then publish. All right, can you all take that poll that's somewhere on your screen? I just want to see how many, because we've been around for a very long time. And so I want to see how new the folks are here. All right, right now it's going and going. Wow, a lot of people are very new. Here, less than 6 months. Maybe you've just discovered us recently. Some of you are 6 months to a year. Not as many veterans here, ProFellow veterans, probably because they're already... They're probably already really acquainted with the ProFellow site, so they probably didn't need to come to this webinar. But I love to see there's so many brand new people here. Excellent, excellent. Okay, thank you for taking that poll. Now let's get into it. So if you're brand new, then the other question is how much do you know about fellowships and fully funded programs? So I'm just going to go quickly over kind of some key definitions to help guide us. Now, fellowships, they have lots of different uses out in academia and the professional world, but we have a very broad definition of fellowships. We call them short-term funded opportunities to do something exceptional. So first off, professional fellowships and academic fellowships, they're always short-term, so they're not permanent positions. This is what makes them different from a job. They're usually anywhere from a couple weeks to maybe up to a couple of years in length. A common length of a fellowship is a year, so they're typically short-term. Also, most of them are funded, and we really try to exclusively list fellowships in our database that offer either a grant or a stipend, and really hopefully come at no cost to you. So that's what makes these great. They're sort of like grants, but for individuals rather than organizations. And then we say to do something exceptional, which is our tagline, because for a few reasons. Number one, fellowships can offer an extraordinary opportunity to do things that you wouldn't be able to do in a typical job or even just in the course of your life. So, things like going abroad or being embedded in a congressional office or getting funding for a special project or launching a company or organization. So, it really gives you this exceptional opportunity. But also, virtually all fellowships are merit-based. So there's a pretty intense application process, and you got to prove that you are the right fit for the program. So if there's time at the end of this, I want to go through some of my top tips for being a really top applicant for these competitive programs, because if you can unlock these fellowship awards, they really will change your life. So just a few more definitions. Why would you want to apply to fellowships like the ones I've done? Well, there are fellowships that would help you pursue a self-designed project or do research, which of course, all of us, we're always looking for the resources to do these types of things. So a fellowship might be your only opportunity to get funding for that project that you really want to dedicate time to. Also, there's fellowships that, like I said, they can embed you in an organization for a period of a year. So you can get really high level work experience in your industry or in a new industry. So this is a great way to get your foot in the door, get new skills, and build your network. Also, they might be your only opportunity to work or study abroad. So a lot of Americans I always had a real wanderlust to go abroad after having a study abroad experience in college. But then after college, it was really, I didn't know how would I ever go abroad again, right? Other than doing a volunteer experience or vacation, getting a job would be difficult. But then when I discovered international fellowships, I found this great mechanism to go abroad, to live in Europe and places like New Zealand. So it's excellent. And also for study abroad for Americans, it's a great way to get funding to go abroad. Also achieving funding for graduate school. I mean, part of the big drive behind ProFellow is to help us address the high cost of education. And we're particularly focused on the master's and doctoral level. So we've got fellowships in there as well as fully funded programs. I'll talk a bit more about those. But in all cases, whether it's an academic or professional fellowship, it's going to help you broaden your professional network, which is the number one way that you advance your career. So these days, as you move up and up in your career, a lot of the best job opportunities and leadership opportunities come through word of mouth. So you should always be trying to cultivate your professional network. And a fellowship just immediately opens you up to not just a cohort of peers who are emerging leaders and established leaders in their areas, but then also the leaders within your industry through the fellowship staff and the organizations that you get to work with. So there's so many benefits to applying for fellowships. Now, when I talk about academic and professional fellowships, I just want to delineate between the two. You'll notice that the name ProFellow actually did come out of this idea of creating a website about professional fellowships, which back in the day, very few people knew what these were. People were more familiar with academic fellowships. So you might have heard of postdoctoral fellowships and graduate fellowships. Those are what I call academic fellowships. They will typically fund graduate level study like masters or doctorates and research, as well as postdoctoral experiences. Let's say you have a doctorate. There is research funding for recent PhD graduates, scholars, faculty. That's in the world of academia. So I call those academic fellowships. But then there's also this whole world of professional fellowships. So the professional fellowships might give you a placement in a full-time work placement in an organization. Could be a couple of months to 1 to 2 years. So it's professionally oriented, helping you to build skills and make networks there. They also can be used for professional projects. So you'll see fellowships for social entrepreneurs, for artists, for people who are especially trying to do social impact work. So that's the world of professional fellowships. And, sometimes there are fellowships that straddle the two. You might have an academic fellowship that also has a professional element to it. So in these cases, we book on everything kind of together. We call it a fellowship. But when you hear me talking about professional fellowships versus academic fellowships, these are the primary differences. Now, the other thing we started doing in recent years was adding fully funded graduate programs to the ProFellow database. And for me, my personal experience is that I never knew what full funding was early in my career. And I went to my master's program, which I paid for with student debt. And then later I got a full funding award to do my PhD. So I thought, this is information that more people need to know. So full funding is essentially a graduate funding mechanism that comes from the university itself. And you'll typically get it through a graduate assistantship, which is like a part-time student job. But the beauty of this job is that it'll give you a tuition waiver as an employment benefit and a stipend that really kind of recognizes the hours of work that you do, which might be anywhere from 10 to 20 hours per week while you're in school. So we like to list these programs that guarantee full funding. You'll find this is much more common at the doctoral level for PhD programs where people are, working for 5 to 6 years, but you can also find them in research-based master's programs, as well as Master of Fine Arts programs and others. So we're trying to get these into the database so that it makes it a little easier to find the graduate programs that have it. Now, I think I mentioned this in some of the communications about this webinar. in the US right now, the funding sources for these graduate assistantships are being dramatically changed because a lot of the funding comes from research grants, much of which is from the federal government. So right now, universities are grappling with how do they offer graduate assistantships. So this is going to change. I'm going to try to show you how to kind of stay on top of this information to figure out which programs continue to be fully funded and which ones don't. But this is something we should all kind of be aware of and keep our eye on in the coming years. Now, let's get into the ProFellow database. Oh, I forgot to change out this picture. This is what it used to look like. All right, but let me go over to the new database. All right, so I'm going to share the screen. All right, let me see. Can you guys see that? I think you can. All right, let me just check the chat real quick. Can you see the new screen? All right, okay. So here is what the new website looks like. Now, sometimes I find out people have been on our email list for years and have never used the database. And the thing is, to access the database, you do need to create a ProFellow.com account, which is very easy to do. It should just take a minute. It's completely free. And the beauty of it is we do not sell your information to other parties. Right? We have made a very deliberate decision that would not be part of the model of how we do this. So our goal is just to get you information. So it really is to your benefit to sign up for ProFellow.com and use the database, because when you get inside, you can start bookmarking things. So if you don't have a ProFellow account, just go to this big Get Started button here on the homepage. I'm already logged in, so this is what it looks like when you're logged in. And I'm just going to go to this tab here, Free Database. And then we are inside the database. Now, again, if you're an old veteran of ProFellow, you'll see this is a new layout. If you're brand new, you're brand new and you won't know the difference. So I wanted to walk you through the different categories. Now, right now we have 2,777 programs listed in the database, all sorts of things. Now, these aren't just 2,777 individual awards. These are programs which have anywhere from 1 award to tens, sometimes even hundreds of awards. So this is representing tens of millions, if not probably hundreds of millions of dollars in funding, because each of these programs has an element of funding to it. Over here, now just as a quick show, when you see a database listing, you'll see that this is linked. So this is kind of the main database view here. The default sort is by newest added. So you might come in here and you'll see all of a sudden a whole bunch of awards that are similar, like, let's see, I think we did an AI policy fellowship listicle recently and we added a bunch. So you might come in and see a whole bunch of new ones in one particular category. It's only because it's sorted that way. But when you click on the title here, you're going to see a little bit more view of the database listing. And the most important thing for you to know is that this big Learn More button here will take you to the program's website. We often get, questions about how do I apply? What do I do? Just so you know, we don't directly administer these programs. We're not part of the selection committee. What you want to do, we are an information platform for you to find the programs, bookmark them, and more easily access them. So if you find a program of interest, let's say it's the University of Toledo's fully funded Master's in English, you'll want to go to the website here, and this is going to tell you everything you need to know about, are you eligible, how to apply, who it's for, application deadlines, etc. So just use that tool to learn more about the program. What you want to use ProFellow for is to bookmark programs of interest to your account. And also, we do try to stay on top of deadlines and keep those updated. But you'll see here that this will say estimated or confirmed. Now, these programs are not great at always keeping their next deadline updated. So often we have to estimate based on last year's deadline. So right now we're estimating, I guess the deadline passed April 15th of this year. They don't have an official 2026 deadline up yet, so we'll put it as estimated. But we put the estimated deadlines in there just to give you a sense of when it might be coming up next. But as always, go to their website, sign up for their mailing list if it's something that you're really interested in, because if you get on their mailing list, you'll be the first to hear if there's any funding announcements. We may not have the most updated information about the deadline. Like I said, we're trying to keep them updated all the time, but always go to the main website for the program, get on their mailing list, and then you'll be alerted if it's offered. Down here, so if you want to save this to your ProFellow account, you can just click this big bookmark button here. And then also too, you might want to explore. There might be some related programs down here that are interesting. We're still working on making sure the related programs are properly related. So we're still tweaking this a little bit. So this is going to get better in the coming months. But, take a look at the full screen here. And then once you've learned enough, you can come back. Now, you saw that I bookmarked that program. If you're looking for your bookmarks, just go here. This is the one I just bookmarked. There was a couple others here that I had bookmarked. So that's where they'll come up. So this is the bookmark button here. Now, your next question is, well, how do I filter these more than 2,000 programs? You'll want to use this main filter bar here. And in this first type, here's all the different categories of programs. So we've got professional fellowships, which like I said, can be embedded in an organization. It might be project funding. Generally, these are things that are geared toward professionals or recent graduates that are about to go into the workforce or mid-career people. So I would use this if you're looking for a professionally oriented opportunity that doesn't have to do with research or academic study. Here too, we have doctoral programs and master's programs. So this is where you're going to find the fully funded programs, which I'll get into in a minute. We've got postdoctoral fellowships for those that have graduated with a doctorate and want to do research. Down here, these are our academic fellowships. We've got master's, doctoral, undergraduate. So just depending on if you're an enrolled student and you're looking for a fellowship, this is where you want to look. So let's say you're an enrolled undergraduate student. Take a look at the undergraduate fellowships, because generally these are bucketed by whether you're currently enrolled in a program and is looking for enrolled students. Same thing for master's or doctoral. If you haven't gotten funding from your university through, say, like a graduate assistantship or other sources, you could look at these external fellowships. And then there's summer fellowships. These tend to be geared towards students. So it's for currently enrolled students or people who are just about to graduate. So if you're in that bucket, take a look at summer fellowships. And then also too, we're going to be adding in the next month or so a whole bunch of business accelerators, which are programs that help entrepreneurs launch their companies. They often give funding in the form of any kind of venture capital, grants, and they usually have pro bono mentorship and other forms of support for entrepreneurs. So I did a business accelerator program myself called the NASDAQ Milestone Makers Program, which was in Silicon Valley, right in San Francisco. So you'll start to see more of these programs because it's sort of another form of funding, right, to do something exceptional. So we're excited to get those added in. We might reorder these types. We're still tweaking a few things here and here. But let me go through each of these. Let's say you're looking for professional fellowships. You can click that there. And then you can add further filters here. So we've got all these disciplines. Now, these disciplines are very broad disciplines, as you'll see. We're trying to keep things bucketed under broad disciplines. But if you're not seeing your particular discipline, try to think, what would this fall under, right? If you're working in public health, that would fall under medicine and health sciences. If you're working in journalism, that would fall under communications. If you're working in, a tech company, you might be in both technology and business. The reason we kept these broad is that there's so many subdisciplines. We needed these filters to be functional, but also let's say you pick let me do public health as an example. You could do that, click medicine and health sciences, but we also have this keyword search here at the top of the database where you can see, let me spell it right. Public health. Yep, I know it. That'll come through there, and then you'll be able to see programs that have that particular word. Now, the reason I recommend not getting too narrow with your keywords is because, sometimes people say, oh, I'm trying to find an award for ecotourism. There may not be a fellowship or graduate program specific to ecotourism in our database, but ecotourism is at the intersection of ecology and business, maybe even international affairs. So I think it's better to keep your search broad because a lot of these programs are multidisciplinary. You could do a project in ecotourism, but it might be under a broader fellowship that's generally for entrepreneurs or generally for people working in ecology or sustainability. So If you go too narrow, you might be ruling out programs that your ideas would perfectly fit within. So try to keep your search broad. And I will tell you, these descriptions are very, very brief. So, pour a cup of coffee on a Saturday morning and, just go through these one by one. It actually wouldn't take you that long to go through 200 results. You can also bookmark right here. Let's say you come up with something. And let's just say, I got 30 minutes to scroll. Well, come in and you can use this to bookmark, and then you can come back to it later and take a closer look. So that's how you get down to more specific disciplines. All right, so that's in the discipline here. I'm going to uncheck. Let's see. Oh, it removed my, that might be something I saved. Save your filters or not. Down here too, location. All right, so we have, again, very broad locations because otherwise this would be a very long list. And there's also programs in this database that could be done anywhere you are. It could be a research grant or a study grant. So it's really based on where you're currently located. But let's say you're an American and you want to go to Europe, so you want to find just those programs that are in Europe. This is where you would select the location filter. But likewise, if you want to find something that's remote or virtual, we have used that as a tag on a number of different database listings. So you could do the word remote, and you'll see that the word remote comes up. And virtual is used a lot too. So we're trying to collapse them together, but right now try both, try virtual and remote. And, you'll see which ones come up with those words. Now this one, I think if you don't see it here in the description, it's probably because it's in a tag. So down here, we have virtual in a tag. So we use tags to help the search process in the database too. So, just try different things there to find remote and virtual programs. But you can also do, let's say I live in Chicago. Let's find a Chicago program. So you'll see that, or other cities or states. This is a way to kind of narrow down if you're looking for something where you currently live. All right, now down here, we're still tweaking the citizenship requirement. Oh wait, so I have the clear the filters. We're working right now to get this a little bit tightened up. The citizenship requirement, it should show you things that are open to your citizenship or to any citizenship, right? Which is a lot of the US graduate programs are typically open to any citizenship. But right now, this is going to show you awards that are specifically open to US or Canada or UK. So you can use this to further filter down. We're going to work soon. It's either going to say any up here so that you can click any and your citizenship, or set it up like before where if you click US, it'll show you US and ones that are open to any. We're still working on that, but we're going to get that refined. Also to residency, this is important. Let's say you are an international student studying in the US, so you're not a citizen, but you're here. You can use this residency filter to find awards that are open to you. But generally too, this will mean that you have to be in this country in order to do the award. So because we're a US organization, many of the things that we list are based in the US or are geared to US citizens or residents, including students who are already here studying. So that's just so you know, that is really the focus of our organization and our database. So if that's you, there's going to be lots and lots of things inside the database for you. We also have a filter for work experience. Generally, most fellowships actually do not have a work experience or age range or age cap. But some of them are geared toward people in their early career and recent graduates, and some are more geared to experienced people. So generally, if you want to find things that are only for people, recent grads coming out of college, maybe up to about 5 to 8 years of work experience, look in this tab here, less than 5 years of work experience. If you're more mid-career, late 20s into your 30s, look at 5 to 10. And then there's, of course, a wide range of things for very experienced people too. And this will include opportunities that are open to any age range. But as always, when you look at the fellowship, try to look more closely at the website to see, are they generally picking people at early career, or are they generally picking people at mid or late career? Because, you want to make sure that it's a good fit for you where you are in your career. Down here too, we've added this as a funding type. Now you'll see most of the things in this database are fully funded because that's what we've always been putting in. But we are going to start to add things that are not funded, but that we are curating as really, really good opportunities. And as an example of this is a very popular program, is like the Advanced Leadership Initiative Fellowship that's at Harvard. So this is actually a tuition-based program, but it's very popular. A lot of people use this as a launch board for their careers. So we're going to put in things, highly curated opportunities that we feel are worth someone from our ProFellow audience to look at as an investment in their education or their career advancement. So if you want funding, you will be able to toggle and pick awards based upon if it's fully funded or partial awards. The other thing you're going to notice too, it's not showing right now, but some of these programs that are graduate programs, now we've only primarily been listing fully funded programs in our database. And we don't necessarily want to get rid of these programs, but in the coming years, we're going to find that this funding may be cut. So something that's listed in our program right now is fully funded, may not be fully funded in this coming application cycle. So I'm giving you that as a caveat now. It's very, very hard for us to determine what's funded or not. What I would recommend doing is looking at the programs of interest and look at them also based on what's the curriculum, what are the focus areas. Let's say you were interested in this PhD in bioinformatics at University of California, San Diego. What I would do is go here, go to the website, come here. Now, you'll see that it still says most students admitted are supported by a financial support package. But from what I know through the grapevine is that, this is really, really up in the air for a lot of programs. So I would recommend, getting on their email list. Hopefully they have an email list here. Or one way to get on the email list is to start the process of creating your online application, or even contacting them and saying, hey, I'd love to stay in touch, be made aware of any updates to funding to the program. You'll want to be really closely looking at this for the coming fall semester. And then hopefully by then, websites will be updated with correct information. But the other thing we might see too is that they might reduce the number of spots in order to meet these financial constraints. So in a year when they used to have 10 incoming fully funded PhD students, they might have 3, right? And they might be using grant funding from other sources. So just be aware of that. The good news is with ProFellow, we have lots of different opportunities. If you say, I can't afford to pay for this out of pocket, or man, I just can't get in because there's so few spots now, look through our database to find other types of opportunities, the professional fellowships, accelerators, and other programs, because, things can change again in another year, right? So stay optimistic. It's going to be a very interesting graduate admissions year, but in the meantime, there's a lot of programs. Same thing goes for federally funded fellowships like Fulbright and others. If you've been watching the news, you may hear that these programs are on the chopping block, or they're going to have their funding stopped or reduced. There is no clear information about this right now. It's not in stone. Conversations are ongoing, but it's possible they could be cut or reduced. So just be aware. I'm recommending that people still apply, because honestly, we don't want the applications to go down, because then it sends a signal that we don't need them. But also, too, you never know. If they are officially still taking applications, it could be a great year to apply, because a lot of people might not apply and it's less competition, right? So don't ruin your chance of getting an award based upon an assumption. I would still recommend applying and really using the opportunity to really practice your application skills, because in any case, anytime you apply to a really competitive opportunity, it's a great chance to practice your pitch, creating a project proposal, reconnecting with the people who will write recommendation letters, building your network. So there's a lot of value out of applying, even if you don't get in. So just remember, that's my tip to everyone. All right. And Ben says, yes, they are officially taking applications. The new official deadline is up. But, let's just keep on top of the news. I, of course, am doing my best to stay on top of what's happening next. And to be honest, it would be extremely unprecedented for this program to go away. But, a lot of unprecedented things have happened. So we'll just see what happens this coming year. But use the ProFellow as a tool to find all sorts of opportunities. Start to dream big. Look at where the funding's coming from. Figure out different alternatives for your plans, because there could be something in here that you never imagined would be possible. All right, what I want to do, and I want to mention here, there's more ways to use this this little keyword search bar here. You can use words like mid-career. That was working before. Yep, mid-career. By the way, if it comes up and it says no results, just click it again. Try to figure out why that's happening. Click it again. You can use different words like this. So discipline words, mid-career. Maybe you're looking for a part-time program. Let's say you want to keep working full-time, but you're looking for a part-time fellowship. There are some things like this, like you could do it part-time. So try different things with the database. Now, before I wanted to actually spend some time giving some tips as well for applying, but let me hop over to the chat and see sort of what types of questions are coming up. And also, we love any feedback too on the database, because like I said, we're still refining the search parameters and how it's used, because it was a huge undertaking to move everything from the old database into this new one. So we'd love to hear from you if there's any particular things that would be helpful to improve the database. Let's see, I'm going to go over here. If people put things in the Q&A. All right, I'm going to look here. And just, I'm going to be kind of honed in on questions that relate to study in the US, because we're not really promoting opportunities abroad unless they're for Americans. So let me just go through here. And let's see. Nicole asked, can you find a way if it filters if you're eligible, if your GPA meets it? Interesting. That's a good question. We don't have that in here, because I will say most groups do not have a GPA requirement, and also it can change. So it's really, really hard to keep that, because most fellowships don't have a GPA requirement. This is more common maybe in the graduate programs, but even those, many of them don't have a GPA requirement. There just isn't enough programs with a GPA requirement that it's worth making an entire filter out of it. So Nicole, no, there is not. But again, it should take, go through the fellowships that look interesting to you, go to the program's website and see what they say about GPA, but also feel good that a lot of them don't have a GPA requirement. And many of them are really focused on finding, mission-focused people. Oh, someone asked, what's the difference between doctoral programs and doctoral fellowships? Great question. The doctoral programs are the graduate schools themselves. So University of Toledo's program that they're offering, and we put them in the database if it's a curriculum program that offers full funding. However, if you're looking for an external source of funding that's not coming from the university, let's say a fellowship from a philanthropic body, from a government agency, from a company, those will be listed under doctoral fellowships. Now, some of the doctoral fellowships are for very specific schools, but for the most part, let's go over here and take a look. Most of them are kind of open, like you could apply for a fellowship that could be applied to whatever school that you are going to, depending on if you meet the eligibility requirements. So wait, let's not doctoral programs. Let's take a look here. I'll give you some examples. And this is the same for master's programs. There's master's programs, which are the actual university programs, and then master's fellowships, which tend to be external fellowships that could fund your master's studies. All right, so if you go to like these doctoral fellowships, yes, like the Mercatus Center, they have fellowships that you can use if you're an enrolled doctoral student at any program, or the Carl Menger competitive online fellowship program to PhD students. So these are great if you're already enrolled in a doctoral program and you're looking for outside sources of funding. All right. Someone asked, as an Master of Ed educational evaluation student, what are the possible courses to apply for a PhD fellowship in the USA and Canada? So I would use the database, and you can filter by doctoral programs and doctoral fellowships, and then also add the discipline filter education and go through those and see which ones meet your needs. Jasmine asked, when do undergraduates in the US apply for funded PhD programs? Oh, good question. So for many of these programs, the deadlines for the PhD programs tend to be They can start as early as November, but a really common deadline is December 1. So if you were a senior in college and you want to start a PhD program the following fall, you would have to prepare your application and get it in typically by December 1. Sometimes they can be early January, and then some can go later, but usually the funded programs have that early deadline of December 1. So that means you really need to start working on your applications the summer before December 1. So if you're a senior, if you're a junior entering your senior year, you would apply that, during that summer is when I would strongly recommend starting. I would not wait until the fall and getting really close. And that's true for most of these programs. Fully funded PhD programs, December 1 is a really common deadline. It's a pretty common deadline for the master's programs too, but they can be often in January as well. All right. Someone asked, can you filter for a postdoc that is around a certain subject, such as aging? Yes, you can. So what I would do is, you can go into the postdoctoral fellowships. Now, the subject of aging is a really niche area. There might not be a very specific postdoc for aging. So I would recommend that you think about what is the broader topic that falls under, what discipline, because it could be public health, it could be counseling, it could be, it depends on if you're looking at the science of aging or the policy of supporting people who are aging. So it really depends. But if you were to put in aging, there might not be a specific postdoc for that, but there could be broader postdocs through which you could do aging research. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell the developer, I want to go back and make sure we can kind of hold on to our filters after we come back in here, just so you can better adjust it. So yeah, you'll go into postdocs. Now, if you'll see, there's 344 postdocs, and some of them are really broad, like even this one here at the Humboldt Research Foundation. I'm actually familiar with this group. This is the group that funded my German Chancellor Fellowship. This is a really broad multidisciplinary award for people from all different disciplines based in Germany. So if you put in the word aging and don't find anything, you're going to miss out on these broader awards that are broadly for science or social science or humanities. So, that's why I say, even for 344 programs, I would just sit down with a cup of coffee, like I said, cup of tea, and just go through each one and bookmark ones that you want to look at further. All right, I'm going to take one more, and then I want to talk about some tips too. All right. Someone asked, how do one qualify for multiple funding for PhD projects? I mean, that really depends on what you're doing. I mean, could you get more than one fellowship for a PhD dissertation research? It's possible. I do know people that have done multiple fellowships, but usually you can't do them at the same time. So if you win a National Science Foundation grant, typically you wouldn't also be allowed to have a Paulides and Soros grant, right? So they don't really want you to like double dip. Usually you just get one at a time. But that said, you should apply to a lot because they're very hard to get into, right? They're very, very competitive. So I wouldn't just apply to one and wait, see what you hear, and then apply to another, wait, see, because you might not win any of the awards. So it's good to just look at these, bookmark them, think about when you're going to apply, and then, apply to as many as you can, as long as you have the time to put together a tailored application. Now, there might be a lot more questions. Let me see if I can get through the application tips, because I'm noticing that a lot of the questions have to do with how do I apply? How do I stand out? Let me get back over here to my webinar slides. And let's see here. And I can always go back and answer more questions about the database. So let's start. All right, start. It's making me go back in. Okay, so we were here. So we took a peek inside the database. All right, now next, let's talk about the different application criteria. Interestingly, fellowships have the same application criteria as applying to graduate school in many cases. So you'll see for both fellowships and for graduate programs at the universities, typically you need to have a resume or academic CV, a personal statement, and or some kind of short essays. So these personal statements might have different names, but Generally, that's an essay about your background, your motivations for study, and personal information about your career trajectory. Typically, they require 2 to 3 reference letters. Some of the fellowships, especially, and even PhD programs, will require a project or research proposal. So for 2 of the fellowships that I did, I had to come up with a whole project proposal as part of my application and then figure out, what's the right project, what would be interesting, what's feasible. So that's a whole undertaking that can take a couple weeks to a couple months. Also, some programs, especially for international fellowships, you might need to get a host institution. So that's essentially a university or organization that agrees that if you win the fellowship, they will host you, meaning give you a desk, give you resources, and give you access to what you need to do your project. And then almost all of them have some sort of individual panel or group interview. So needless to say, this is pretty intense. And this is why I say it's important to prepare early to apply for both fellowships and graduate schools. This is not something you want to, get down to a month's time before the deadline. So this is why the ProFellow database is so powerful, is because you can start to bookmark things. You can even bookmark things that you might not apply to for 2, 3, 5, 10 years, but they're on your radar. So you generally know when the application deadline is. And then I would say about 6 months before the deadline is when it's time to start getting serious about putting all of these application pieces together. For most of my applications, I spent anywhere from 3 to 6 months on the individual applications, including those for graduate school, because that's what it takes to get into these programs. So just be aware. And also too, for fellowships, the timeline for the funding is usually anywhere from 6 months to a year in advance. So if you have a deadline, usually the funding doesn't immediately start. Usually it's starting the following year. So I get a lot of frantic emails this time of year, people looking for funding right now in May for a September start. But most of the national fellowships, the deadlines have already passed. So when you apply to graduate school this coming fall, you want to look at both the graduate school applications as well as those fellowship applications for funding from the external groups, so you don't miss the deadlines. There's some really big ones that have deadlines in September, October. So you'll be working on those even before you submit your graduate school applications. So this is just some of the nuance of getting prepared. Let me talk about some secrets of fellowship winners. Now, this is going to be the whole core of my book that's coming out probably around December, because I've been working with fellowship and graduate school applicants for many, many years. I've done a lot of things myself in my own career. And so I've learned a lot over the years about how do you convince people to pick you over other very qualified, maybe even more qualified applicants than you are. And there are a couple of key things that I've learned that I think can make all the difference in how competitive you can be. So my first tip is, number one, make sure that you align your goals. At the end of the day, it's not about your goals. It's about the funding body's mission and goals. And this is even the same for graduate schools. Every single fellowship and graduate program has some sort of mission. For the fellowship programs, their mission often has to do with a much broader social impact. Typically, it never has to do with you helping you achieve your career goals or make more money or even do a project. Often they're trying to do things like address a research gap or get more diversity into a particular industry, or build diplomatic ties between countries, or help revitalize a location that's been economically challenged. There's always some sort of social impact mission. It's very important for you to know what that is, because when you say, why do you want this? You really want to be aligned with the mission. My career goals to help revitalize this particular community is really aligned with what I want to do personally. So that's where you want to make that alignment. So also for graduate schools have a training mission. Their training mission is they're training people for specific career tracks. So whether it's a master's program or a doctoral program, they're not creating it because you love to learn and they want to help you learn. They're, either producing the future scholars of the world, future academics, or they're producing future business leaders, future journalists, future educators, right? So think about who they're trying to train so that your career goal is aligned with their training mission. So look at the website carefully. Look at what they say is their mission. You could also look at who they've previously chosen and their projects. That'll give you kind of an indicator if they have a very vague information. Who they picked in the past is a pretty good indicator of where they're spending their money. And also look at what they brag about. I remember when I applied for the New York City Urban Fellows Program, this was a one-year program for 25 recent graduates to go work in New York City government. And, at its outset, you might think it's all about helping us recent graduates, advance our careers. But really what it was is a mechanism for New York City government to get, the smartest, brightest recent graduates to come work in New York City government. But the goal was to have them work there long-term, right? They didn't want you to go for a year and then leave. It was really for you to stay long-term. And when I figured that out, when I saw that being bragged about, that so many fellows stay long-term, I made sure to incorporate that into my application as part of my goal. So this is why it's important to take the step of looking for mission and goals. Even if it's a university or graduate program, there's always something there that you can align yourself to. Let me take a sip of water. The next thing is to go niche and get really specific and narrow. If you are applying for a fellowship or research grant that has that's for a project, try to narrow it down. Sometimes people do really big, ambitious project proposals because they think it sounds good. But the problem is what they're proposing is still too vague. It's not clear what can be accomplished in the period of the fellowship. So it's actually better to go narrow because, number one, really narrow niche topics tend to be more memorable because they're so specific. Also, the more specific you are, the more confidence you instill in the selectors that you know what you want and how you'll be successful. And also, I have found that when I've really niched down my project proposal, it's actually easier to create a plan that's feasible because they really want to know, if we give you this money to do this project, are you going to finish it? So if you do something that's too broad or there's too many questions about, will this produce research that's valid, or, would you actually get to the answer to the research question? It's probably not going to be picked, even if it's a really good idea. So always, whenever you're doing a project or research proposal, think about the timeline and what you can feasibly do in that period of time with the money and resources that you have. The more feasible it is, the better. The other thing I love to teach about is storytelling in the application. I talk about the application story, which is not the story of your life, but it is the answer to the question, why you? Why should we pick you over many other candidates for this opportunity? And so there's a story that you have to tell these selectors about why you. And I recommend making the program the hero of the story. A lot of times we make ourselves the hero, and we go really deep on describing all of our accomplishments and what we bring. And but when you do that, you're really treating the award like it's a lifetime achievement award, rather than an investment in something that you're going to do in the future. So really what you want to do is couch them as the hero. So in your application story, and I recommend drafting this out every time you apply to something. First, the beginning of the story, the broad story, is your background and your motivations. How did you get to where you are now? Why did you pick that college major? Why did you pick those particular jobs? Why are you volunteering in these areas? Why do you care about the things that you're working on? The end of the story is actually after the program, after the fellowship, after the graduate program, because it's some kind of aspirational thing that you want to be doing, maybe in 5 or even 10 years. That's the end of the story, far in the future. And then the middle of the story, that hook, is how this particular opportunity is going to help you achieve that very specific goal in the future. And really, they want to know that you're going to leverage this opportunity for some sort of impact. So the program itself is not the goal. The fellowship is not the goal. If you end the story there, there's nothing to invest in, right? So think about, how does this fellowship or this graduate study fit in the broader vision of your career, right? What you're going to do in 10 years' time. And they will be much more compelled by stories that say, this opportunity is the thing that I need to get to that 10-year goal, right? So make them the hero. All right, adding urgency. People are always surprised by this, but I love to talk about it. All of these programs, they get a lot of really qualified applicants. When it comes down to them having a multitude of very highly qualified applicants, they don't know how to choose between them. Sometimes even just a bit of urgency can be the very edge that you need to get picked. So the urgency is the reason why you need it right now and not later, not in a year or in a reapplication. So it might be something that you're doing is addressing an urgent social need. So maybe you're doing research that could immediately inform policy. Maybe you're working on something that's in the news that people really care about. Also, it could be that you're going to look at or do something related to what I call a fleeting phenomenon, meaning it's happening right now, but it's going to be gone, this moment in time. And I know this a lot from the disaster field because we'd often do policy about that immediate recovery period after a disaster. So the way it looks after a disaster in that first 3 months, it's going to be different in 6 months and in 1 year, right? So if you miss that moment to look at it, it's gone, right? So think about that urgency. It could also be that what you're proposing is part of something longer term. So I'm getting the foundation for a dissertation or a research project. I'm going to be writing a book. I'm going to take this back to my company or my organization because we're working on this 10-year plan. So see if you can fit it in there where it's like, I really have to do this right now. I can't wait a year. Also, you can mention that this might be really important prep for graduate school. So let's say you are looking at an early career research, like a summer fellowship or internship or something that is going to give you some skills or expertise that you need that will strengthen your graduate school applications, but also help you once you're in graduate school. Those are just a couple of ideas, but anytime you're working on something, see how you can add that timeliness, that urgency to help it stand out. And then finally, I always recommend we got to get off our phones and start talking to people because speaking to former fellows was one of the primary differences between people who have success and people who don't. Now, I can give you all sorts of recommendations about how to make your application stand out, but when it comes to specific awards or programs, the people who really know how to get in are the people who just recently got accepted, right? And they're going to have insider information about the people on the selection committee, what they asked in interviews, what they're looking for. So whenever possible, try to find some fellows who went through the program. You often can find them sometimes they have the fellows on the organization's website. They may even have an ambassador. Many times they don't, but if you know the names of the people, or you could even Google them, then you can go to a place like LinkedIn and find them and even send them an email. You can also lean on your university. Maybe they have alumni that they can introduce you to. I mean, right now there's so many ways to find people online, right? So then it's just a matter of writing a polite email to them and asking, hey, I'm applying to the Echoing Green Fellowship. I'm very serious about this application. I've got a project proposal together. Would you be open to speaking to me for 15 minutes? I'd love your insights on the interview process. Boom. And hopefully they will write you back. And I will say, fellows are pretty generous about this. I think everyone who's been in a fellowship wants the next generation to benefit. So as long as you have specific questions, you are brief, and don't expect too much. Sometimes they don't respond, but this is a great way to get insider information that probably most of the other candidates are not going to have. All right. I talked a lot. I gave you a lot. I want to make sure if you sign up for this webinar, but you are not in ProFellow.com yet with a free account or on our mailing list, you got to get on our mailing list. So our mailing list, every Tuesday, we send out ProFellow Insider, which is subscribed by 100,000 people. It's going to have all of our latest articles, resources, events like this. We are doing paid workshops. We have a whole bunch coming up this summer. So let me put into the chat, there's a very easy little sign up field. Where could that be? Oh, offers. Here we go. Start. All right, I'm going to publish this. This is just a link to the mailing list sign up. You just pop in your email, then you're on our mailing list. All right, make sure you check your email to confirm. We do the double opt-in to help keep out, fake emails. Do that, get on the email list because we also have these sub newsletters as well. We've got an early career fellowships newsletter, a mid-career fellowships newsletter, a scholar newsletter, and a graduate school applicant newsletter, which is all about grad school funding. So make sure you get on the mailing list if you're not already. And now we have a few more minutes, two minutes left for questions, but let me hop over to the chat and see what folks are saying. How was that? Did you guys learn some new things today about, fellowships using ProFellow? And let me know if you have any more questions. I can answer one or two, but I'll be just excited to see if many of you are starting to use the database, use it to your advantage. Awesome. Let's see. And then, oh, great. I'm glad people are finding it helpful. Excellent. Excellent. Using the database. Excellent. All right. And then let me go over here and see if there's any more questions. Sonia asked, what if I want to work in some area and apply for a grant, but not sure about the project idea or how to execute it? It's a great question. Let's say there's a project-based fellowship that's interesting. One of the ways that I've found great project ideas is by speaking to organizations to find out what they need. Think about the field of work that you're interested in. So when I was applying for the Ian Axford Fellowship, I was in this broad field of children and disasters. I was working in DC. I had to come up with a project proposal for New Zealand that could only be done in New Zealand, right? That was the criteria. So what I did is I reached out to the Emergency Management Office agency in New Zealand, and I said, here's broadly what I'm working in. What are the areas of need? Where could I help support or fill in gaps? And they said, well, we haven't done a lot in children and disasters, but we released this curriculum program, and we haven't evaluated it. That could be something. So I just kept going deeper with them on that. And they basically helped me come up with my winning project proposal. So really, I say the best project proposals help fill a need in the location of the organization. And also, again, get it down to something narrow, not something so broad that it might be hard to do in the fellowship period. Don't underestimate how much time it takes to get started on a project once the fellowship begins, how much time it takes to write up the project. So many times these projects are much more narrow than we initially imagine. All right. Someone asked, how long is the database free of charge? Honestly, Dee, as long as forever, I hope. I mean, it's been free for 14 years. I mean, this is part of our social impact mission, so I hope to never charge money for it. So enjoy. Hopefully I'll always, be the founder and director of ProFellow, but things can change. But as of now, we have no plans to make it paid. So enjoy it, use it, share it. This is our social impact mission. The whole reason I started this is I wanted more people to find these awards because I felt that it was very unfortunate and unfair that the information was only being shared by word of mouth through certain circles. And I felt that, really everyone should at least know about these awards. And then I started getting into helping people get into the program. So that is what I love to do. All right. Let's see. Someone asked, let me see if there's any quick questions. I'll do one more. Let's see. Someone asked, whether it's an academic professional fellowship, will you be the one funded or do you have to look for the funds? No, actually the fellowship will give you the funding for whatever you're proposing. That's the beauty of it. So think of a fellowship like a grant for an individual. People often ask me about grants like you see in the nonprofit world. When I hear the word grant, I often think of a grant that's for a nonprofit organization, whereas fellowships are really for one person, right? An individual person. So that's what's good about them. And usually you'll use it for graduate study, for research, for projects, or to go work in an organization for a year. This is why they're so special. And that's why I want you all to have access to what I call the treasure chest that is the ProFellow database. So I just want to mention before we go, we have, let me just take you back again to the website here, ProFellow. When you're at this page, we now have these new career pages. So depending on where you are, please share these with your friends. If you're early career, we've got the email sign up right there, right in the on the page here. We have open calls page. These are our partners that are looking for people right now. So take a look at this. This is a mid-career fellowship for people that are working in nonprofits and advocacy work. The Rotary Peace Fellowship, that's closing today. Mira Fellowship and others. As we get into the fall, it's actually not quite what I call fellowship season. There's going to be a lot of open opportunities here from our partners. So please take a look at those. Over here too, we also about every Monday, we'll have a list of upcoming deadlines, and these will be just the confirmed deadlines. So right now, we try to get them as far out as 8 weeks, giving you enough time to apply. So look, we have a list of fellowships with deadlines July 6th to 19th. So you've got time to work on this. You'll see the Fulbright Specialist is there, Project Involve. You know, take a look here. We just do this to make it easier to find fellowships that are upcoming, but you could look, there's some even closing this week. And our events, this is our new page. We've got a Fellows Network dinner in person happening in New York City next week. By the way, any of you that are here, I saw some New Yorkers here. Y'all should go to this event, okay? These are going to be people who have won fellowships, and it is open to aspiring fellows. So if you want to make new professional contacts, learn more about fellowships, get insider information, come to one of these in-person dinners. This is our Fellows Network of winners. I'm also going to be giving a lot of workshops. I'm working toward my book deadline, but once I get my book in, I'm going to be going on a workshop spree. So I'll be having workshops coming up on resumes to start, but then personal statements, the research proposal, their statement of purpose. I do them on negotiating funding and others. So come to those. You'll see them. If you're on the email list, you'll get those announcements. And then, of course, don't miss our articles. These are all free and accessible, but you know, we try to get the best people to come and like write articles for us. So one of our guest authors just did 5 ways scholars can use LinkedIn. We've got fellowships lists, like 10 short-term fellowships for research, news and announcements. You'll see who's going to fellows dinners, application tips, interviews, and my Ask Dr. Johnson column, which is here. So that's how you navigate the site. And most of our resources are free. But when you do purchase a workshop or one of our events, just so you know, that funding does help sustain ProFellow. So we appreciate the support that we get through paid workshops and your participation in those. All right, I think I talked enough. I'm 5 minutes over, but thank you everyone for coming today to talk about ProFellow, and please share ProFellow. The more people that know about us, the more likely we can stay free and open for many, many years to come. All right, thanks so much for your engagement. I appreciate it, and good. I hope to see you soon again on ProFellow. Take care.